This juice is so good. You guys need to try it. And nobody in my family drinks this except for me, so I can drink out of the carton, but I usually finish it within 2 days, so I think it's fine. Right. Anyways, that's the first drink I've had all day because I forgot my water bottle in the morning, and I literally have been dehydrated the whole day. I felt like a dried out frog on a sunny day, which is like a weird description, but we're gonna go with it. Hey guys, today we're gonna do another Reddit true, or I messed up again. Another ghost stories from Reddit. Today we're filming another Reddit video. That's it. My experiences growing up in an extremely haunted funeral home as a child. Hello everyone, my name is Megan. I'm 35 years old and I grew up in Kentucky. Starting when I was about 5, my parents bought a funeral home. It was well over 100 years old when they bought it. They owned and ran the funeral home, and it's a pretty large funeral home in my area. We lived in the upstairs area of the funeral. They still own and operate the funeral home to this day, and I visit pretty regularly and occasionally have experiences. I had a very interesting childhood growing up. This is going to be a long read. As a child, I had many experiences every day, all the way up until I moved out at 19. Some were terrifying and some were comforting. We had many resident spirits that just stayed around. Some were human, some definitely weren't human. Each had its own personality and temperament. I still have experiences to this day when I go visit my parents. The first experience I remember when I was about 6 years old. I was sitting on the couch in one of the viewing rooms, and I got the feeling of being watched. I looked up and saw a woman standing in the corner of the room. She was a young woman in her mid-20s. She was wearing a black dress, she was very pale, and she had long red hair. She smiled and waved at me, then said, "Hello, little girl." I said hello back, and she smiled again, then disappeared. She would become known as Alice. She's the most extroverted and nice of the resident spirits in the funeral home. She was very talkative. I formed a very good relationship with her. She pretty much became like a second mother to me. She was the matriarch spirit in the funeral home. Here's a summary of my experiences with her. I would see her almost every day standing in corners or in the middle of a room. She was always smiling, and she always said hello. When I would get off the bus from school, she would always be standing there when I would walk in the door and greet me. She would smile and say hello, then she would ask how my day was. I would say hello and tell her about my day, then she would disappear. Oh, girl. We all need an Alice in our life. One time in high school, I snuck out to a party, and she appeared to my mother in her bedroom and told on me. My mother was waiting up for me in the kitchen when I returned. Imagine a ghost telling on you. She protected me from one of the darker non-human spirits that hung out in the embalming room. The first time I wandered into the embalming room right after we moved in, I saw a spirit that definitely didn't seem human. It looked like a young girl that was wearing a gray t-shirt and black pants. Its skin was the scales. It was very reptilian looking. It had a forked tongue like a snake and red eyes. The first time I saw it, I had wandered into the embalming room for the first time. I was just exploring right after we moved in. I heard a loud growl and looked up, and it was just standing there staring at me. I was paralyzed with fear. Then Alice appeared. It looked at her and kind of leaned its head to the side like a dog that's curious about something. She told it to leave me alone, and it growled and took a step towards me. Alice then stepped in front of me, and this reptilian thing then looked absolutely terrified. Then Alice stuck her arm out, and this thing started to levitate and was choking. It looked like the Darth Vader choke. Alice then moved her arm to the side, and it flew into the wall and disappeared. After that, Alice turned around, got on her knees in front of me, and told me to be more careful, then disappeared. Alice seems like the sweetest, most kindest, and caring ghost ever. I don't know if Alice is human, but I'm not sure. You guys can tell me what you think. She is seemingly very powerful. Now to give a summary of my experiences with the reptilian spirit. The experience with Alice protecting me, one time I saw it in one of the hallways, and it climbed up the wall onto the ceiling and just stared at me and growled and then disappeared. I saw it every time I walked in or past the embalming room. It would just stand there and stare. It never tried to attack me. I think it was because Alice scared it to death. I have 2 stories. I have already shared them once on this app before, but the other story has an update, which is very creepy and kind of heartwarming, but I'll start with the first story. So the first one happened right after my grandpa passed away from cancer a few years ago, 2017. It was like a few weeks after his funeral, and I had come to visit his grave, and he is buried in a really old cemetery where his other family members were buried as well. So I was visiting, and it was pretty bright outside, and I lit the candle I had brought in the cemetery. There was this old church building that had now been abandoned. So I was basically keeping an eye on this building. There was only one possible exit route, and that was the front part of the building that you really couldn't get to safely due to the floor being very old and just broken. So I walked closer to this building, and I looked back to the window, and she was still there, and I had gotten to the entrance where you could see inside the place pretty much, and she just vanished. I, of course, called out and asked basics, aka if she needed help and if someone was there, with no response. I waited there for a while and looked around the building, confused and slightly freaked out by this whole thing. After a while, I decided to go back to my mom's car after that, while she was still visiting her other relative graves. As I sat in the car, I tried to look at the building again, only to see nothing back there, which calmed me down a bit at the time. Update, I told the story to my mom as the subject of visiting the graveyard this Christmas came up, and since I now live in a different city with my boyfriend, we would have to visit the graveyard very late on Christmas Eve this year. My mom noticed that I got uncomfortable and asked if everything was alright, and after a bit of hesitation, I told her what I had seen at that graveyard, that time I had visited on my own without someone being with me. I had for a long time told myself that I had imagined it that day, and that I may have been tired. After all, I had a very messed up sleep schedule at the time, and very bad insomnia. But as I told my mom this story, she stopped me when I said a short description of the lady at the building window. She went quiet for a moment, before getting up from the couch and going to the wardrobe and looking through a box she kept there. She came back with a book and sat next to me, and she opened it. And I flipped through some of the pages. Then I saw it, the same lady, in one of the pictures with my mom, smiling and drinking coffee. I told my mom that it was the lady, but instead of wearing the dress she was wearing in the photo, she was wearing a white hospital gown. My mom went quiet as I said this and explained that this woman... I heard this noise. My mom went quiet as I said this and explained that this woman was her grandmother, aka my great-grandmother, and that she had passed away a few days before I was born. After she told me this, I got chills running down my back, as I have heard stories like this before on the internet, but I couldn't believe it. So I looked at the photo of that woman until I couldn't deny it, that it was the same exact woman I saw that day at the graveyard. It's safe to say that this Christmas I will make sure to bring a candle to her grave, and take my time with going to that graveyard in case I may see her again, since I heard from my grandmother that her mother, aka my great-grandmother, was really excited to have a new child in the family, and very excited about the child being a girl, and that she had bought some toys for me as well. She was a very sweet and caring woman, and I full-heartedly want to believe that she was just saying hi to me that day. The second story. So this happened 5 years ago now, and we were still living in an apartment building on the 7th floor. We had a balcony in our home, and the neighbor's balcony was removed a few months before this happened. So basically I was out with a friend of mine when I received a call from my little sister that there was someone in the house. I immediately panicked since she and my younger brother were home by themselves. My brother was about 8 years old and my sister was about 10 years old at the time. I was very much nearby still, so me and my friend got to my house rather quickly, and we listened to my sister tell that they heard a few toys falling over in my brother's room while they were playing video games in the living room, and didn't of course alarm them much. And they continued playing until more noises came from the room. There's this curve in the hallway from my brother's room to the living room, and in the hallway curvy end is me and my sister's room. And so they hear something in the hallway, and they stop the game to listen, and they heard footsteps as clear as day a few moments later. This is the moment where they freaked out, ran to the bathroom, locked themselves in there, and called me and our mom. So me and my friend get there, and they explain this to us. We go and look at my brother's room, with my siblings falling close behind us. And of course I had told my friend to grab our baseball bat just in case we found something, and to calm my siblings down. We go in there and look through every closet and every place someone could hide in, and nothing came up. At this point, I'm questioning if my siblings had just heard the neighbors making noise or if they got scared by their game, until my friend was looking into the hallway from the open door and just was staring at something there. I noticed this and looked at what she was seeing, and as I did, we heard running footsteps go from the hallway to the living room and the balcony door opening. In the balcony, we had these glass doors, and we heard them being pushed open and then hit the wall. My sister started crying, and me and my friend run after whatever it was to find the balcony door open and the glass windows were wide open. We of course go look, and we find nothing in the balcony or in the living room until my friend points out that on the window there was this metal bar and it had pollen on it. And in that bar were handprints, like someone had grabbed it and nothing else. We were so confused by this. We heard what we heard, and I asked my friend what she had seen, and she claims that she had seen a jacket move in a weird way in the hallway, and she saw something. I try to ask her what she had seen, but she refuses to tell me. Our friendship ended soon after this incident due to other issues between us, but the incident did definitely put the last nail in the coffin for us. That was the video. I hope you enjoyed. I wish you all the best in life. Goodbye, and peace out.
Hey, I'm sorry for dreaming about the future. You and I'll be better when we're old enough.
I'm gonna go shower now, because I'm still in my school clothes.